After what felt like forever, we finally got another horror short out. There's a lot to talk about, so I will be taking you through how we made our short film, Virulent. This film was pretty different from our others, mainly since the antagonist was not a physical being. This film also brought in our first female lead, played by Talia, who was the Nightmare Lady in Rem. Visual effects were a really important aspect, since so much of what happens in the story needed things that would never be able to be done practically, so a lot of time went into finding the best ways to do it all. Starting off, the words writing themselves were a pretty big challenge to tackle. See, originally I did this a much simpler way by recording my screen as I wrote the words out in Procreate, and this worked until I started noticing that it looked way too fake once you really looked up close to it, and this wouldn't work since we needed those shots where we see it writing itself up close. I knew that this had to look somewhat believable for the film to really come together, so I redid this by drawing each line stroke on paper, and by getting pictures of them and fixing them with levels and grain in Photoshop, I animated each letter in After Effects. This shot is one of my favorite of the effects since it's so simple looking and doesn't really look like it could be VFX, but it really is. I shot 2 plates, one of the book, then one of Talia's hand over a green screen. This was so that I could change the focus in post without really changing it in camera thanks to the glorious camera lens blur. I also removed this logo. For the other shots of the phone, I did the same thing by removing the logo and replaced it with the custom logo. I also wanted to make sure I had all these textures like the scratches around the actual screen. So I made another mask of these textures and created another Luma mat with the actual design that I put for the phone. A few fairly easy shots were the ones where the book moves by itself. Conveniently, the book has a string attached to it, so I just used that to move it and then removed it in After Effects by rotoing out the book itself. By far my favorite shot is this one. When I wrote this into the scripts and talked about it with Frank, we really didn't know how we were going to make a body explode, and I kind of thought it was impossible with our limited resources, but I actually did know somewhat of a way to do it. I've been messing around a lot with green screens, and I figured that there was a way to do it with a chroma key bodysuit. The explosion effect was done by making a fake corner with poster board, and then adding a plant in there to make it feel more realistic and into the environment where we actually shot it. Okay. Rolling. The blood mixture was fake blood and water, and the water was good so that it actually moved in the air and it wasn't super thick and it still splattered all over, so that worked really well. The missing limbs were the next challenge, so to get a somewhat accurate visual representation of what an open wound looks like, I actually took a piece of bread dipped in sauce to replicate the limbs being cut open. This worked surprisingly well since I had a close-up example to work from. For shooting, Talia wore a green screen suit that we cut into 4 parts for her arms and legs, and then she laid still on the floor, and we got a clean frame too, that way I'd be able to remove her legs. In After Effects, I keyed all of the green out, then added a lot of texture under the legs for the inside gore. The green screen works great because it makes it so easy for me to actually add texture underneath, and the texture consisted of various images of raw meat. These shots of the arms were the only ones that I actually didn't do, and VFX artist Sam Evanson joined us on this project to do these. When shooting, we put 24 tracking markers on each arm, and at first I used a marker, but after multiple failed attempts, it started to smear, so we fixed this by using waterproof eyeliner instead, and it really held well and did not smear at all. Using Nuke, Sam removed the markers and tracked on the textures of the infected skin with a really interesting node setup. I really like how organic it feels, and when you zoom up really close, you could see how the skin expands, and it is just very, very gross to say the least. My favorite sound to record were the ones that actually go with the arm shots. By far the strangest way I've ever made a sound. I took grape jelly and mixed it around with a spoon various different ways, and it actually came out pretty perfect and matched the grossness of the arms. When filming this phone call scene, it was very similar to the way we shot the iPad scenes in Motion Detected.
Come on!
As we filmed, I had the phone call sound on my phone playing so that Talia could have real reactions to the sound. Some little Easter eggs are 810 on the phone, and the brand of the stand is Dormani Home Appliances, which I like to see as a part of the Dormani Home Security Company. A few are in the book also. The illustrations are Frank in Bentneck, me in Motion Detected, and these two guys up here are James and Anthony Russo, who helped out with writing some ideas, so special thanks to them. The score was done by none other than Frank, and when scoring this one, I let him do it by himself and not shadow him as he composed, and this actually worked out really well. I hope you enjoyed this making of, and of course the film too. Huge thanks to everyone who had a part in making this film. It was a grueling process at some points, but I'm so glad that we finally got it out, and in no better time than spooky season. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.